First up, we've got is Grixis Zombie Madness. This was an interesting deck to see. It's very similar to the Grixis control suite that we're used to, but with a zombie trend instead of the thing in the ice / torrential gearhook route that the popular Grixis zombie deck is using. We've seen one mountain, we've seen two swamps, we've seen only one evolving wilds. Probably runs a full play set. Spirebluff Canal. We also saw Smoldering Marsh and Sunken Hollow after the first game. These are probably main deck. I put them over here just because it's not impossible to sideboard in lands. Mono White Humans likes to sideboard in what is it? Something Battlegrounds, the red-white pain land when SOI and EDM were around. So I put them over here just because we didn't see them first game. We actually didn't see a whole lot of this deck. I don't know if there's a specific win card or if it's just a constant pressure deck. I think it's just a constant pressure deck. We saw two Crypt Breakers, probably runs a full play set. We only saw one Prized Amalgam at any given time, but it probably runs a full play set of those two. The combo with Prized Amalgam and Scrappy Scrounger is one that a lot of people have been trying to do. We also saw the Scrappy Scrounger, Anticipate, Cathartic Reunion, Fiery Temper. Fiery Temper with Crypt Breaker was interesting. I don't know if it runs any other madness. It also has Collective Brutality. So I don't know if there's other madness in the suite. Thermal Alchemist in the sideboard could be a thing. It's hard to say. One card that I'm surprised I don't see more with Crypt Breaker, speaking of lands, oops, not that one, is the Drownyard Temper. The Drownyard Temper, you can discard the Crypt Breaker and then return to the battlefield later. I don't know how many people are using that with Crypt Breaker, but that is one other thing that I want to point out that's a possibility with this kind of a deck. After the first match, we saw Void Shatter, Gavada Bombardment, Licensed Disintegration, and Radiant Flames. I'm pretty sure, like, this is pretty much the standard Grixis control suite, so I'd be very surprised if these aren't main deck cards. 4, 8, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, that's 32 cards right there, so probably isn't running all of these. It probably has Void Shatter and Licensed Disintegration are probably the main ones that are in the main deck. Now, one thing that's noticeable, I don't know if I put that in the... one thing that I probably should mention when I was doing lands is that we didn't see an actual island. We only saw mountains and swamps. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is at least one island because of the Evolving Wilds, but this is all the basic lands that we've seen. And the only blue lands we've seen are Spirebluff Canal and the single Sunken Hollow. But I'm sure it's running more blue because otherwise Void Shatter is a little bit iffy. You'll see in the match that he tried to cast Void Shatter and couldn't because he only had a Sunken Hollow and no other blue lands. Now I've searched and searched for a Grixis Zombie Madness deck, and I couldn't find it. There is a thread on MTG Salvation for a Grixis Madness deck, but it doesn't run Crypt Breaker and it doesn't run Scrappy Scrounger. Of course, it was created before Kaladesh, but it doesn't run either Crypt Breaker or Scrappy Scrounger. It does use Golden Pariah, so it was created after Eldritch Moon. It uses Haunted Dead. It uses Prized Amalgam. All the Grixis Madness decks that I've seen do. So as far as I can tell, this idea was unique to that one opponent. Next up, we have the Selesnya Lifegain deck that scared me all kinds of ways. He probably would have won the first game if it wasn't for us getting off for infinite combo. He runs at least one Evolving Wilds. He runs at least one Blighted Woodlands. These are mainly the triggered Landfall type effects, more than they're the ramp. I mean, he doesn't need the color effects because there's only 2 colors. We saw at least 6 plains. We saw 3 different forests at any given time. Obviously there's more lands because that only comes to 11 lands. So that's just, that's probably only see half the deck at any given time. For creatures, he runs Aerial Responder, Flying Vigilance, Lifelink Dwarf. Awesome card. Really nice. He probably runs more than one, but we only saw the one. Lone Rider, I guarantee you there's 4 of them in this deck. It's just such a good card. If you watch the playthrough, there's a link right there if you're not on tablet. If you're on desktop, there'll be a link right there. But yeah, the 3 the Lone Riders just scare me so much that I made sure I removed them every time. The Angel Invention, we didn't actually see this played. Oh, it's got lifelink. I didn't even realize it had lifelink. I just thought it was Flying Vigilance. So yeah, so 3 lifelinkers at least. This we only saw because we had the infinite mill combo. And honestly, come to think of it, if I hadn't asked the opponent if he wanted to concede, I probably could have gone through his deck a little bit further just to see what cards he had in there. But I didn't think of that until after the fact. But the only reason we saw this was because I wound up forcing him to draw it and forcing him to exile the card with Thought-Knot Seer. He has Retreat to Kaladesh, Jadi Offsuit, and Nisa Nature Artisan, and the Verdant Crescendos. Pretty much is our main package from the Fat Pack deck that we just did too. So that's interesting to see that how some of those are. Authority of the Consuls gave us a little bit of trouble in the first game. It was a little bit scary, so I made sure to bring in removal for it. Pulsa Marasa, really good card. Get back your Angel or your Lone Rider or your win condition, your Felidar Sovreign, and gain 6 life. Like, that's pretty insane. Oh, I skipped something. The Jadi Offshoot, you 0-3 with Defender, gain life whenever a line comes into play. It's a useful little tool for the right decks, and this certainly is one of the right decks for it. I believe he sideboarded these out because we didn't see any of these second game. Nissa Nature's Artisan, a very, very, very good Planeswalker in this deck. If she was on the board, I was stressing out about how to get rid of her and prevent the opponent from gaining life. When your win condition is Felidar Sovreign and or other Reflux Reservoir, amazing. Dazzler No Affection, gain life equal to target creature's power. Next time that creature would deal damage to you, prevent that damage. It's sort of similar to the classic reverse damage, except that it's only target creature and it's only get life equal to its power, not the amount of damage that would deal. This is the card that it reminds me of. I don't have the art for it loaded, but that's kind of the... Instead of getting life prevented this way, you gain life equal to its power. Which can be different sometimes. Like, this will prevent direct damage, like something from... I can see this being used to prevent damage from combustible gear hold. These 3 cards we didn't actually see in their deck. Our opponent just told us that they're in their deck. So I don't know how many of them... we did see the Felidar Sovreign in the second game. Normally I'd put that over here, but because we know it was in... Our opponent was hoping to draw it, so we know that it was in the main deck. Verdant Crescendo, our opponent said that he runs 1 copy of Nissa with Verdant Crescendo to fetch. I don't know how many of these he runs. I love this for the extra land fetch. If you haven't watched the Fatback deck, I'll mention it here. Search your library and, for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. By turn 5, or actually no, let's try this again. By potentially turn 4, you can have 6 mana in play. You can have 6 mana sources in play. So first 2 would be, the second turn would be your mana dork, because they cost 2 mana nowadays. Your third turn, you play Verdant Crescendo with your mana dork, and then put another land into play. So turn 4, well, if you have many is 6 by turn 4. That's pretty untapped, ready to do anything. So you can bring out Nissa Nature's Artisan on turn 4 if you've played a mana dork on turn 2 and you haven't missed a land drop. Yeah, unreal. We know he's got at least 1 Fumigate in the deck because he mentioned that he was hoping to draw it. Wouldn't have mattered because I could have blinked my Archangel Avacyn and prevented the damage. I wouldn't be surprised if he's running 2 of these. Felidar Sovreign, we saw 4 of in the second match. Again, I think this is all he's running. If he's running for, it's such a high casting cost. I mean, this is one of his main win conditions, but it's such a high casting cost that I don't know if you want 4 copies of it. That said, there is a lot of ramp, so it is possible that that it came out. Oh, it's got Vigilance too. That's nice. 3 creatures with Vigilance and Lifelink. That's insane. Now, as to the sideboard, we did see 2 other Flux Reservoir cards in the second match. However, I don't know if these are main deck or if they are sideboard. They are a win condition for the deck. However, I think that he may just bring them in against control or against games that go long, rather than I keep them in the sideboard otherwise. Because, I mean, he doesn't need... One nice thing about this deck is that he doesn't need to win off Felidar Sovreign or other Foxes of the War. He can win straight up on damage. Lone Riders, they flip into if it rises 1. First Strike, Trample, Lifelink 4/4. Scary. They are so scary. Angel Invention could be a 4/5 flyer, and I don't see any reason in this deck why he would create the tokens. I think he would just get the counters. So there's that. Retreat to Kaladesh can make his Lone Riders bigger. He can make his Flyers bigger. And everything has lifelink, except for the Jaddy offshoot is the only thing that doesn't have lifelink. So yeah, this has a lot of ways to ramp life, and I think this deck's best matchup would be against aggro, which our deck wasn't. And so I think that the other Flex Reservoir is more as a backup strategy against control decks like ours. Alright, so the third deck that we went up against was the Selesnya Landfall deck. I originally called this Tokens Landfall in all the UI before I did the video, but there actually wasn't a lot of token strategy in it. I assumed it was a tokens because it missed the Voice of Zendikar. But let's get to the deck. We had at least 3 copies of Evolving Wilds that we saw at any given time. That's not true. We actually only saw 2. I don't know why I put 3 in there. We saw 2 Canopy Vistas in the second game. And we saw actually we only saw those in the second game, so we'll move those over here. They probably are main deck. We saw only a single Plains, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is only 1 Plains in the deck for the Evolving Wilds. Actually, come to think of it, the Evolving Wilds were also second game. But I can almost guarantee that these are main deck. We saw a total of 14, count them, 14 forests in game 2. That was insane. We only saw 6 in game 1, but it had a lot of ramp and a huge combo that got his Hydra up to 18/18, which I think was silly. I think he should have. I understand why he did it. He wanted to play out his hand so that he could draw more cards with Orrery. If it wasn't for that, he should have waited. We saw Sylvan Advocate. We saw Tireless Tracker. We saw Scythe Leopard. Again, we usually see about half the deck, so there are probably 4 each of those. Sylvan Advocate is just great if you're ramping, and also actually all 3 of these are great if you're ramping. This deck is like a ramp landfall on steroids. The only thing it's missing is some kind of a man land for the Sylvan Advocate. At least 2 copies of Immolating Glare right from the beginning. In the first, I had Immolating Glare. Miss the Voice of Zendikar. I think this is a bit of a strange choice. It feels like a card that doesn't fit in this deck. Yeah, this is the first card that I would take out. Miss the Vital Force, on the other hand, really works well in the deck. Getting that 5/5 elemental as a blocker or an attacker is huge, and getting permanents back to your hand is also a key strategy for this card. Girapur Orrery. This is a card that I personally don't like a whole lot, but this deck has so much ramp and its casting cost isn't super huge except for a couple of cards that it can empty its hand really quickly. So I actually think this choice works for the deck. Now, as far as cards that we saw post sideboard, I actually think these first 3 here are in the main deck. Oran Reef Hydra can get really big, especially if you're playing Evolving Wilds. You're playing multiple lands with Girapur Orrery. You get this is renewal to grab a bunch of lands. It's pretty good, and they're +1/+1 counters. They're not just a temporary bonus like with Scythe Leopard. Then we've got Snarling Garland, Snaris. Then we've got Snapping Gnarlid. Also gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Doesn't get counters. Wish it got counters. But yeah, that's a solid. It's like a slightly bigger Scythe Leopard, like Scythe Leopard number 2. And then this is renewal. Search your library for up to 3 basic land cards and put them in the battlefield tap, and then shuffle your library. For the same reason that Verdant Crescendo is an amazing card, and this is renewal is an amazing card, because it puts them into play. It doesn't put them in your hand. Fragmentize is pretty standard in the sideboard. Blossoming Defense. I don't know if this was a main deck card or a sideboard card. I can see this card being sideboarded against control. He tried to protect his Tireless Tracker with it, but I controlled around it. So there's really not a whole lot to say about this deck. It's pretty straightforward. I am a little bit curious how it stands up to the rest of the metagame. It seems like there's a lot of deck types I can think of that would have it pretty close to beat. And that's going to be it for today's episode of Enemy Tech. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a like down below. And until next time, keep on brewing.